Bring in a special guest right now. Lisa Evers joining us on Live Now from Fox. Happy Sunday to you, Lisa. Nice to officially meet you. I know we've been in talks before, but my goodness, you've been covering this story. If you could kind of first just recap what's going on so we can understand and put things into perspective.
Well, Janae, imagine this. It's Friday. You're dropping off your little children, like we're talking under 1 year old, some 2 years old, at this daycare center in the Kingsbridge Heights section of the Bronx. And about 2:45, the officials say that they received 911 calls about the children being unconscious. And one mother had actually already picked up her 2-year-old and noticed that he was acting very, very lethargic. She called 911. Thank God she did, because he was safe. So when the first responders got there, they saw these babies. The one-year-old boy who died unfortunately from this. There was an 8-month-old girl, another 2-year-old, and they were all overdosing. An apparent overdose is something that unfortunately the paramedics and first responders here in New York City are very familiar with. In fact, within the last year, they've required all first responders, not just the paramedics, but even the firefighters, the police officers, any law enforcement, to carry Narcan or naloxone with them so that they could have it in the case of an overdose. So the first responders get there. They immediately set up a hazmat tent, a decon unit. They get in, they administer Narcan to the children. Unfortunately, this 1-year-old boy was actually about 21 months old. They could not revive him, so he passed away. So you can imagine the horror of all this. But then as the police investigation went on in full force throughout the afternoon on Friday, they found what they call a kilo press, which is used to make the bricks when they're packaging heroin and fentanyl. And a lot of the drugs that are being used and being sold, illicit drugs in New York City right now, as in many other parts of the United States, are heavily dosed with fentanyl. So they said that the 1-year-old, which the autopsy will be on Monday, to determine exactly what was the cause. It's an apparent opioid overdose caused by fentanyl. So they found the drugs. And then I'm just looking at the charges right now of the 2 people who were arrested. Late yesterday, police arrested a 41-year-old man, Carlisto Acevedo Brito, who lived in that building. He was one of the neighbors of the daycare center. And as you can see from the video that you're showing right now, this is very common in New York City in residential areas like this, where there'll be apartments above, and then on the ground floor, sometimes on the basement, there will be a daycare facility licensed. This one was licensed by the city and by the state. It was relatively new, had been licensed since last January, but it'll be right in that building. So this is a way for working parents to be able to drop their child off. Usually they feel very comfortable. They know the people. But this one was very new. But last night, the police arrested this neighbor, this 41-year-old man, and then also 36-year-old woman, Gray Mendez, who is the owner of the daycare center. They were charged with murder, depraved indifference murder, and many, many other counts, including manslaughter of a child under the age of 11, endangering the welfare of children. And then the other thing that tells me that there were a lot of drugs that they found there were multiple charges of criminal possession of a controlled substance. So we still haven't heard officially from the police what exactly they found there aside from this kilo press, but it sounds as if they also found quantities of drugs there. Now, Janae, the problem with fentanyl, which we have heard from medical experts, from public health officials, as you just heard in some of that press conference and briefing that you just played, and the DEA, I've done numerous interviews and shows on this. A couple of grains, the size of grains of sand, could cause you to overdose just being applied to your skin. So you can imagine with children ranging in age from 8 months to 2 years old, their poor little bodies and their systems, that's what could happen to an adult. Imagine what could happen to a little baby and to a child like that. So a tremendous amount of concern about that. In about 35 or 40 minutes, these 2 individuals who were charged with the murder and these numerous other charges, more than half a dozen each, they're expected to be formally processed, taken from the precinct into the legal system here in New York City to be arraigned on these charges sometimes later today. But